So what happens when two third-generation Arizona women authors who are passionate about their state start talking about experiences, insights, and memories of different places? They don't stop talking. They write a book, and then they start a podcast. Welcome to Celebrating Arizona with Julie Morrison and Lisa Schnebly Heidinger. Grab your favorite drink and settle in. We're celebrating Arizona, going everywhere from A to Z. And we're off.
Hey there.
Hello. We're back.
You and all the other people out here?
Yeah. Yes. Hello, everybody. Speaking of
aspect, what slice, what fragment, what shimmering section of Arizona are you taking us to celebrate today?
Yes. Well, it is kind of a slice, come to think of it, because it is Ventana Canyon. And Ventana Canyon is part of is into the Catalina Range, just north of Tucson. And this was a canyon that I had heard of and never been in. It's easy to get to. I had heard it's a beautiful hike, but I'm a Sabino Canyon girl, and it's a little bit like going to California or Hawaii, where people assure you that there's a whole lot more to do than just go to the beach. But because you don't live there, you don't want to leave the beach. Or that's me. So I, anytime I go to Tucson, I want to be in Sabino Canyon, and I do a great job of not going to the other canyons. But on this particular trip, I was at Lowe's Ventana Canyon, this hotel.
And see, I'm such a shallow material girl that the second you said Ventana Canyon, my mind added resort, and I was there. I was not in the natural wilds for which it was named.
I am taking you to the canyon, but I was introduced to it because of being a guest at this hotel, and I got to talking to another guest who both knew the area, had lived there and moved from it. And he knew the property, vacationed there before, and it was a favorite of his and his family's. He said, I could not leave there without taking 2 hours to go up Ventana Canyon. And then we went on to talk about sort of other canyons and walks in the area. And he told me that Aravaipa Canyon is another winner. And I knew I really wanted to go to Aravaipa. And so I thought, anybody who recommends a canyon alongside Aravaipa has to know some things. And so, I took my new friend Marty Ralph's advice and found the 2 hours immediately after the conversation, actually, because I decided, well, I have about 2 hours before sunset. Let's go. So I found my way through the parking lot of the Lowe's Hotel to the northwesternmost part of the asphalt, which sure enough, and across a footbridge, sure enough, that leads you to Ventana Canyon parking. And on the northernmost side of that, the trail begins.
Okay.
And it's an interesting beginning because it's sheltered between a property fence and some very large trees. And so you have the sense that you're kind of going through a tunnel, and you're winding your way back to the canyon through desert that is a bit of a patchwork between public and private land. Oh. And so this trail is going between a couple of fence lines for a while, which also adds to the sense of tunnel or pathing or channeling or something.
But that you were being guided to a place.
Yes, exactly right. Yes, well done. Then around, one more mesquite tree and a couple more boulders, all of a sudden it's just you on this path and headed into, you can see a canyon. And Marty had described it to me as being an intimate version of Sabino Canyon.
Interesting.
And I absolutely agree. I was there, scurrying around the trail an hour before sunset. I saw maybe 3 parties of between 1 and 3 people hiking out. Nobody was behind me going in. And so very much had a lot of solo time on the trail, not hearing or seeing people, which, lends itself to the feeling that it's just you here. And yep, that's pretty intimate. In Sabino Canyon, the mountains to the side of you are more distant than in Ventana, where they are closer.
Okay.
And your canyon walls are closer to you. There was not running water at Ventana. And, part of why I love Sabino is because of Sabino Creek and the magic of water, but I could hear more. I could hear more of the bird life. Yeah. And so that also was, you take away kind of the white noise of falling water and you can hear a lot more of what's going on around you. The bird life was incredible. It was a concert. Well, or more like a concert crowd of birds, because it's calls and shouts and songs and twitters and just sound like you would get in a waiting crowd. And then I turned around. I had decided that at one point I needed to be back at a certain point of the trail by sunset. And so when I got to my turnaround point, but I also turned around because I couldn't tell where the trail was headed. I couldn't tell if it was going up through the creek bed and over more boulders and whether I would kind of have to mountain goat my way along or what. But I decided, okay, good, great turnaround point. Let's go back. The light, the sunset light coming up over those, oh my goodness. And it was the pinks, actually, the pinks and the orange and the coral. Like this was a coral sky. Yes, friends, as much as I love Sabino Canyon, I will spare a visit in order to go to Ventana because it is magical. It is entry into, as I've, said before, kind of a time and place apart.
Nice.
Yes.
Yes, Sabino is many things, but I've never been there and thought I feel like I've entered a time and place apart.
Yeah. You can find it there if you want to. There's pavement going up to the top, and there are the little buses, the little shuttles that kind of trundle by, and there are usually lots of other people. So it's a great place to go hiking on your own because you can feel really safe.
Yeah.
Because there are nearly always people around. And let's just say that I recognize that going on my own to a trail that is not highly trafficked was not my brightest idea, but it may have been one of my best. So,
that's, and we don't have to have a long conversation about this, but I have several female friends who camp alone.
Really?
And the one time I camped alone, although Larry, Daddy, was in another tent in the same campground, and I woke up in the middle of the night, I played tennis with, well, on the one hand, nobody is here except people who work pretty hard to get here. So it's not like they could stroll in from the bar on the corner and just look for somebody to hurt. This is a very specific crowd. On the other hand, nobody would hear you scream. I mean, there is nothing. If I were looking to do damage, I would be wise to park myself at a campground, observe who comes in and who's alone and who, So I did that most of the night, the first night, and finally thought, women who camp alone just don't go there. They just don't. So on the one hand, I wouldn't have said, Julie, you did what? You fool. Yeah. And on the other, you're right that anywhere you are all by yourself is not the smartest. But here you are.
But here I am, and I made it in and out to tell the story, and to be able to recommend it with a buddy is probably best.
Well, and especially because I haven't seen it yet. And
yeah. And there are plenty of places where you are climbing through or sort of around boulders. So this is not an accessible trail. And that's also something else that makes Sabino really very special, is that people of all abilities can go see these beautiful sights. And that is not available on
Excellent
this particular
point.
trailhead. And so, if you are able, for as long as you are able, I absolutely recommend it. Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah,
And you speak Spanish, and I only remember having
I
spoken Spanish,
do.
but it's window, right?
Ventana is
Okay.
window.
Okay.
Yes. And so, and which is the perfect teaser for the poem to come,
Oh.
in which we reference Ventana as a window. So
Oh.
yeah, so if that's interesting to you listeners, stick around. And if it's not, then you'll know when it's time to go.
There's going to be the V word here.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, in order to hasten toward that with energy and vim, let's take a break and then we'll come back and keep moving through the show.
Fantastic.
Okay. We are ramping up to spend the year celebrating the United States turning 250 in 2026. Julie and I are so proud that Celebrating Arizona is the official podcast partner for AZ250, the commission that's got the exciting challenge of coordinating all the celebrating Arizona is planning. One thing to look forward to is a passport app with 250 wonderful places and sites we can visit around the state. Look up AZ250 online.
So coming back with at least vim and maybe some vigor to go.
Let's see, vigor via, well, doesn't have to be alphabetical, does it? I've always thought it was
No.
interesting that like vim, vigor, vitality, vibrant.
Yeah. Viva. Yeah.
Viva! There you
Yeah,
go.
this is,
Yeah.
well, that's all in Spanish. Vivir is to live.
That's true.
And
So
vida is
lively.
life.
You're right, La Vida
Yep.
Loca. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, mystery solved. Thank you.
that-
Not quite as
Sure.
interesting now, but no, it makes perfect sense.
But okay, moving right past our Spanish lesson into the next destination. Where are you taking us today?
We will go north, and we will go north to Prescott. Well, we will go north to 169, drive over to Prescott to the west, and then go up Mingus Mountain.
Okay.
And Mingus is on the road between Prescott and, well, Jerome, Cottonwood. So it's one of the 89s that takes you from southern or middle to northern Arizona. And Cousin Mel, dear favorite Cousin Mel, said the other day, "Have you done Mingus Mountain on the podcast?" And I said, "No, but that's a good idea. I should." And so I was fortunate to be able to run this past her because Mingus Mountain is two things to me. The first is a shared memory with Mel, and that is when my storied grandfather, aka Sedona Schnebly's boy, aka Larry's dad, Mel's and my granddad, got lost on Mingus Mountain.
Oh, wow.
And this was probably, I was trying to remember, somewhere I have a written account, and if I ever find it, I may bore people with the exact date. But suffice to say, early to mid 70s. So he is mid 70s because he was born in 1898, which I always thought was beyond cool. It's like he was a relic. And he was a big Westerner, and I don't mean living in the West, but the Westerners are hikers, they're clubs. And there are
Yes.
Westerners groups, and they have a trail boss, and they have various frequently hiking levels within the group, and you go with either the strollers or the trailblazers or whatever. And Ellsworth was a good photographer and loved to hike, and especially after my grandmother Lucille died in 70, he hiked even more. Well, one night we get a call from their across the street neighbor up on Smith Road in Sedona, and it was the Lyles couple. And Lois Lyles was the wife, and she, at a time that no one did this, wore a long, elegant, shiny, swinging braid of silvery white hair.
Oh,
Everybody had beauty parlor hair
Okay.
in the 70s that
Yes.
was over the age of 60, not Lois. And she had a very sweet, high voice, and she called the folks' house, and I guess I must have answered because then when I said, "Daddy," and he picked up on the extension, I was still there, and she said, "Larry, we have a little problem." And what the little problem turned out to be was that Ellsworth had vanished on a hike on Mingus Mountain with some Westerners, which either shows understatement or not much affection from your neighbor, but it was understatement. So they had search parties out at the time. The Westerners were all in a kerfluffle because Ellsworth had been a trail boss and was a bastion of the community, and people were scared because he was 76, I think. And so Larry said, "Well, it's dark. let me start up first thing in the morning, and thanked her for calling. And so start up he did. Now, because Arizona was probably, the whole population of the state would have been less than Phoenix is now, Ellsworth being lost was a bigger kabuki deal, and KTAR radio, as Larry drove from Tucson and got into KTAR radio span,
Yep.
was doing half-hour updates.
Oh,
So the
wow.
pioneer hiker on Mingus Mountain is still missing, you know,
Oh,
and
my
they were, it
goodness.
was, yeah. So it was great for Dad because he could just, you know, drink his coffee and drive, and they'd tell him what was going on.
Yeah.
And he was almost there. So probably through Prescott when they came on and said, the missing hiker that we've been searching for has been discovered, and he was being taken to the Cottonwood Hospital. So Daddy drove to the Cottonwood Hospital and caught up with Ellsworth. And Ellsworth was unharmed. And well, and what Lara remembers most is how furious his dad was at himself. He felt like it was a rookie mistake. It was a stupid, infantile, probably something he had judged others for in the past that he could no longer judge them for. And so he was furious with himself. He always used ski poles for balance. And at first somebody had been actually tracking the ski poles, Mel remembered. And then finally it got dark. And the account was that he had then seen a helicopter and used a mirror. But she was smart enough to wonder if it was maybe a camera lens, because he didn't really prepare for an overnight hike. He had a very light jacket on and lost 14 pounds of water weight.
Oh, wow.
So he wasn't carrying enough water.
Wow.
And yeah, and therefore maybe a camera lens was his improv, or maybe he always carried a mirror when he hiked. I don't remember, but he was resourceful enough to find some rocks that had the sun left in them, pile a bunch of branches, stay under it at night, and go back out, and lived another couple of years. So
Wow.
yeah, Mingus didn't harm him at all. The part two to Mingus, which takes about 20 seconds, is every year when Tom and I make our winter pilgrimage to Jerome, we go to have breakfast at the Hacienda in Prescott and then drive over Mingus.
Oh, nice.
And he loves intricate, challenging drive, and I love watching him love it. And I always wonder where Ellsworth got off. You know,
Yeah.
there's fire tower, there's a campground. They probably would have bivouacked at the campground, but when I get to heaven, I'm going to have them pointed out, because I've passed it enough times now, not knowing I passed it, and I will be curious to see where it is. And P.S., in case anybody wonders if Mingus is about 7,800 feet, yes, it is. And under who was it named for? Don't you love Arizona? It might have been Joseph and Jacob brothers, Mingus, who had a lumber mill in the 1880s. It might have been a prospector named William Mingus 10 years before that.
How funny.
We don't know if they were related. We doubt it. So, yeah.
We being Wikipedia?
Well, we being me in this case. I was
Okay.
just being grand. There was no reference to the possibility of them being related.
Where did you look this up?
I think it was Arizona place names.
Oh,
I think.
okay. That's not a resource I know about. I'll have to find this.
That's because you live in the world of the web. And I have, as you can see behind me, so many books about Arizona, and Will Barnes'
Yes.
Arizona place names is only one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that'd be a fun one though to look into.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Well, very quickly. So the mug.
Mug.
I didn't have a mug from Mingus Mountain, but Jerome is mighty close. It used to be the Mile High Grill. It is now Clink Scale on Main Street. And Tom and I would have breakfast there every year after we stayed in Jerome. So
Nice.
the mug hails from very close to where Ellsworth was taking good care of himself. Although it hadn't been invented yet. Anyway, let's break and return.
Okay. Very good. See you in a minute.
We are so proud Discover Flagstaff is a show sponsor. The historic train depot right there by the main drag is gorgeous and full of history. My dad loved to walk through and see all the posters, the wonderful collection of Northern Arizona treasures. He never thought to ask for advice or suggestions, but he could have. I've seen staff members call one another over to say, "Where do you think the best place to go after Sunset Crater would be?" and such like. Visit Flagstaff and drop into Visit Flagstaff. So I just realized that today's question is even more relevant than I wish that it were. But my dear, 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 dear beloved photographer, Mike Schmidt, had reason to be in a hospital recently, which meant I had reason to go to a hospital recently. He is thankfully hale and hearty, and thank God and pass the potatoes for that. But hospitals were kind of on the brain, and not all hospital stories are good, but occasionally they can make us smile. And I'm hoping that there's one bouncing around the back of your brain that falls in that category.
What's a good story from a hospital?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I do have one. And it is that when I was in high school as a senior, I was part of a service project.
Okay.
And an administrator there. And she set it up for girls in these programs to come in and fill up condoms with water, tie them off, and put them into the freezer to be called frozen Trojans to be used.
Okay, here's the key. To be used.
To be used by women who had just delivered. I think not inserted just as an external means of helping with swelling and discomfort and so forth.
A very creative ice pack.
Mm-hmm. A perfectly shaped and creative ice pack. Yes.
Okay.
Well, come to find out, so she would have us at the nurse's station with this enormous pack of condoms where everybody can see us.
Holy.
We are.
I was just thinking that the giggle level must have just been subsonic.
Well, except the thing is, so it was one of us at a time. And so
not 13 girls.
No. So, but it's just one of us. So I'm doing my volunteer shift and I'm whatever, 17 or 18. And, the hospital's just happening around you. So nurses are doing what they need to do. And there are patients that are maybe coming in and out and doctor's visits. And so there isn't really an environment for giggles because we're just doing some work here.
All right.
Well, come to find out that our family friend had an ulterior motive with this particular service project. She wanted all of us girls to understand exactly how strong a condom is and isn't, how easily it can break.
What a crafty woman.
She worked for Governor Napolitano. She was the executive director of Make-A-Wish. That was Elizabeth Reich, is her name. Yeah. And, I know her. I can't remember the hospital. It doesn't matter.
You sure got the important part of it.
I got the important part.
You got what she wanted you to get.
And she is for sure a very clever and forward-thinking lady. Yes.
Isn't that great?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
Nice.
So that's my good hospital story.
Yeah.
Although, last week I had a good one with, my friend Beth coming and saving me in the cafeteria.
True.
So we've got, the tally gets a little bigger.
Which is how we got it. And I don't have a story per se, but I have a line that always made me chuckle. So Mom, Lee, had virulent colon cancer in 1989. And at the time, they gave her a 10% chance. But this is a happy hospital story because she lived another 99, 09, 19, 30 plus years.
Yeah.
She just rocked it. But Daddy and I are there, and we are going to run because we love to run up Craycroft to River. And so we think, well, it's early in the morning. It's January. We'll, put on running clothes, see her into the surgery, and then have plenty of time to run, shower, change, etc. So their friend Lorraine Rogers was coming into the hospital just to wish Mom happy cutting or whatever. And Daddy and I are flanking her, walking along next to the gurney. We're going to go running. I'm in my black tights, long sleeve black t-shirt. As you know, I'm darkish about the hair and eyes. And Lair is wearing his white running shoes, white sweatpants, white sweatshirt, and a sweatband. He was always a sweatband guy. And Lorraine, coming toward us, starts laughing and says, Lee, it looks like you're being escorted by the angel of light and the angel of darkness. And the angel of light even has a halo referencing his sweatband.
Very good.
So fortunately, the angel of light prevailed, and she came out of surgery and went on to both amuse and annoy us for many, many, many more good years.
As is the right and purview of any family member.
Yes, absolutely true.
Good.
Very good point. Excellent. Oh, which leads us seamlessly, almost as if down a water slide, into my reading, if we're ready for that.
Certainly.
Because I am sharing my mic time with a family member.
Okay.
I pulled this out of a folder that Lair had that I now have, and it said in his little green writing, written by Ellsworth for KVNA Radio, 1959.
Oh, wow.
And I won't read you the whole thing because it's a pretty comprehensive account of how his mom and dad brought him out to Arizona and settled in Oak Creek Canyon.
Yeah.
I faded away there because I was putting Mayer down. But I lifted a bit anyway, just because I thought Ellsworth should get to talk if he's been featured.
Yes.
So this is 1959 radio talk as far as interpreted by Ellsworth Schnebly.
Okay.
Arizona's climate enticed others who lived through the milder winter months. Oak Creek was not always bridged, and during stormy periods, one did not ford the wild torrent. Carl Schnebly never tired of Oak Creek Canyon, so this is his dad. He enjoyed watching the changing moods and showing the beauty spots to hundreds of others as long as he lived. Probably no one was ever a more enthusiastic Chamber of Commerce than Carl Schnebly. He loved and believed in Oak Creek Canyon. This love has been transmitted to his children and grandchildren, some of whom are now living in or near here. Much the same, it has since become important to thousands upon the thousands of others who have passed through, paused to admire, and in many cases retire, or have returned again to see this red-cliffed reminder of God's handiwork in his gifts to his children.
Oh, I kind of want that as a bumper sticker. One does not ford the torrid current.
Oh, that.
Yeah, like let's
The wild torrent. Yeah.
like priorities where they need to be, and like life lessons. These are the rules of engagement here. Like
That's cute.
Yeah.
One does not ford the wild torrent. Amen to that. Yeah.
Very
Well, let's
good.
see. I don't know how we go from torrent to Ventana, but
Well, with a warning
Okay.
that if you don't want to hear about it, this is the time to sign off.
see, I didn't give him that chance. I just
Yeah.
ran right in.
But we'll just call the warning a bridge between the one and the other.
I remember it was never Sedona wasn't it was never bridged. What did he say about that? Yeah, Oak Creek Canyon was not bridged at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Windows.
Yeah. So this poem is in a form. It is a pantoum. And what happens in a pantoum is that the second and fourth line become the first and third line of the next stanza. And you just keep repeating this until you get tired of it, or the poem tells you that it's quitting now. And you repeat the first line as your last.
Okay.
And I chose this because a pantoum also has stanzas of 4 lines, quartets. And so I was thinking of windows and how
4 panes.
windows they have 4 sides, they have 4 panes, and they share a boundary.
Look at you, all smart and visual.
I had fun with the what poets do for fun. I expect no one to join me in this.
Well,
but
take us in.
The title is called Ventana, and I dedicate it for Marty Ralph.
Nice.
Yeah. Inside Ventana Canyon is a picture beyond frame. Saguaros bent and beckoning beside the winding track. Bird percussion rising toward a sun they would call back. Creek bed dryly shushes steps water will later claim. Saguaros bent and beckoning beside the winding track stand in mellow silence, gentle though never tamed. Creek bed dryly shushes steps water will later claim. Boulders fold as knobby knuckles after gravity's attack. To stand in mellow silence, gentle though never tamed, is to cede despite extremes, change welcome at a whack. To knuckle down as boulders through the worst attacks, weathering like patience and practice are the same. To cede despite extremes, welcome change at every whack, takes query and resilience in an alchemy unnamed. Weathering like patience and practice are the same. Love for windows on the world, regardless of the cracks. Add query and resilience in an alchemy unnamed to extraordinary effort, like hiking to relax. Love your window on the world, regardless of the cracks, and make life Ventana Canyon, a picture beyond frame.
Glory be, woman.
And there we are.
Oh. Boulders like knobby knuckles. I almost burst into applause. What a line.
So there you
What
go.
a
Here's a
line.
beginning reading list. Yep. Yeah, go find
right.
some Dorothy Parker.
Cool.
Yeah. But yes, thank
There
you.
we go. Excellent. All right.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure as always.
Okay, bye for now.
See you next time.
We'd really like to hear from you about anything this show led you to think about. Write to us at celebratingaz.com. The wizard behind making a conversation into a podcast is Tom Heidinger. The music comes from Daniel Blatney, and I'm Dana Cooper.